Hello, everyone, and welcome to MeowMix, the Carolina Panthers podcast. This is Steven.
This is Jerry.
And it's an emergency podcast. We are normally not with you on a Tuesday morning, but we are here. And it's not great news, Jerry.
No. These emergency podcasts are, far and few between, but we did kind of decide that this type of situation called for one.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Panthers have placed 8 new players on the COVID reserve list today, in addition to 2 that they placed on the list last week. So in total, that's 10 players that are on the list right now. Those players are...
They're big names.
Yeah, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel, Derek Brown, Zach Kerr, Shaq Thompson, Greg Little, Mike Pilardi, who's not on the active roster anyway, Ishmael Hyman, who is a practice squad guy, and then Yetur Gross-Matos was placed on there earlier, and Bruce Hector, another practice squad guy. So 7 guys, I guess, that are normally playing, and then 2 practice squatters, and then Pilardi, who's on IR.
Not only practice or actual playing, but I counted
Starters.
6 starters.
Starters. Yeah.
I consider Curtis Samuel a starter, and I considered Yetur a starter.
Yeah, well, they both have started. Yeah. So what we know for sure is that they are all on the list. What we don't know is how long they're going to be on the list. Just because they're on this list does not necessarily mean that they will not play Sunday against the Denver Broncos. Some could come off the list prior to that, as long as they continue to test negative. A lot of these guys are probably on the list just due to contact tracing, being close to someone who tested positive. There is a report that DJ Moore has tested positive. So he will most likely, if that report is true, not play Sunday.
Yeah.
Curtis Samuel, sources have said, has reportedly not test positive. So as long as he continues to test negative, then he probably will play on Sunday.
Yeah.
Don't know anything about the rest of the guys, unfortunately.
That Derek Brown, Zach Kerr, and Shaq Thompson, if 2 of those guys are out, run defense is gone. And Denver has a good run defense. But the most important thing, before we really go any further, we want all of them to become back healthy.
Of course.
To get past this. Let's make that clear right away. But man, that's a huge hit.
Yeah, the defensive line alone with Gross-Matos, Derek Brown, and Zach Kerr, that's 3 starters on your defensive line. And there's only 4 starters on the defensive line. So, Brian Burns is safe.
Does Brian Burns not hang out with them, not like them or something?
But Derek Brown and Zach Kerr, both, solid DTs and crucial.
Yeah,
absolutely
they've really come on
the
strong
defense
lately and really helped out with that run.
Yeah, Zach Kerr has been a very pleasant surprise.
Oh.
Losing him is going to be tough. And then Derek Brown, losing him. And you never know how the disease is going to affect them if they are positive, which we don't know. But, with guys like Derek Brown and Zach Kerr, who are big guys, if they have to go 7 to 10 days without eating much and having all the negative effects that you can get from a disease like this, they could drop 30 pounds in a week at 10 days, how much calories they have to intake to maintain that weight. That's hard to come back from, over the course of 4 weeks.
Multiple pro athletes have come back after having the virus and said that they just can't do it as quickly. Like their body is just still so,
just recovering. Yeah.
Recovering. Yeah. I've seen people on Twitter talk about it who have had it, and they're like, I went out to go buy myself a sandwich and I was exhausted, and I'm clear now. I was exhausted. I had to go home and sleep. It's a toll.
So basically, if you have COVID, your symptoms are what I experience every day, which are just, tired walking up the stairs, got to rest,
Having like two babies in the house.
Yeah. Basically, it's like having two babies in the house.
Man.
So I don't know what the Panthers are going to do if. I mean, I assume offensively we'd see a lot of Zylstra, Pharaoh Cooper potentially playing wide receiver.
I mean, you got to think if the rumors are true and Curtis Samuel doesn't test positive, that he just was in contact with DJ Moore or Ishmael Hyman, that if he continues test negative, he'll be able to compete on Sunday. It'll be him and Robbie Anderson, and that's a good one too.
Yeah, I would, and again, it's possible that none of these guys have tested positive. Well, someone has tested positive. That there wouldn't be contact tracing unless someone tests positive. So it's possible though that I don't know if someone on the defense tested positive as well, or if it's Gross Matos and the rest of these guys are contact tracing. We just don't know yet. So it could be that DJ Moore and maybe Gross Matos are the only guys that don't play Sunday. That would be best case scenario, of course.
You also have to wonder, is this Panther team going to get fined? Because there's a lot of players bumping on this list, and teams are getting fined and losing draft picks if they weren't following the rules. And if this is because of that, they could lose a draft pick. They could get fined.
That's true. I didn't think about that. And we haven't heard any reports saying whether or not this was due to them not following protocols. Of course, we were just on the bye week. So, you never know what happens on the bye week. A lot of family gatherings, you would assume, things like that. Haven't heard about any parties or anything, totally irresponsible like that. But it's quite possible. I didn't even think about that, but I hope not, because this is a rebuilding team that needs every pick that it can get.
You're absolutely correct. And from what I thought the Panthers were putting out is that they were definitely following it. And it may have been that tracing was so good that's why we got tagged with so many players, because they were all wearing the wristbands and stuff, and they got too close and they blinked.
Yeah. And unfortunately, these may not be the only ones that end up going on this list this week, because as we saw with Baltimore last week or the week before, it just seemed like every day there was 2 more, 3 more, and eventually they got up into the 20s between players and staff. So the Panthers, hopefully, fingers crossed that this is it. And 3 days from now, we get half of these guys back, if not more, and we're good to go. But it's a little troublesome. The Panthers have been very lucky so far. I mean, Rasul Douglas caught it. Says he has no idea how he caught it. But he caught it.
That's how everybody gets it. Yeah. They don't know. I mean, it's so easily transferable, and then some people don't even show symptoms and transfer it. It's
right. Yeah. And that was mid-October, and nobody had gone onto the list since then. And now we've got 10 people on it at once. So, hoping that this is just a one-time deal. In other news, Christian McCaffrey has said he's ready to go. He is not on this list. Thank God. Dante Jackson is not on this list, and also seems to be ready to go. So the Panthers will be getting some guys back. And unfortunately, as that's the way 2020 goes, right? You bring in the positive, and then the negative just beats you over the head with a frying pan.
Oh man, and we don't even know if they're going to play on Sunday. This could easily get pushed back to Monday, Tuesday, or even Wednesday if need be, because if more players test positive or
we'll have to see. I mean, this could very well be a situation where you're watching a Panthers game on a Tuesday afternoon. Now, I guess that would depend on, the Panthers are not in the playoff hunt. Denver is not in the playoff hunt. Would the NFL have to reconfigure its entire schedule for 2 teams that are not in the playoff hunt?
Well, technically, neither one has been eliminated, so that's an argument.
Yeah, but we saw with Denver that they were not budging with Denver. Now, Denver was blatantly flaunting the rules.
Yeah,
but they bent over backwards for Baltimore. And you cannot tell me with 20 people testing positive that Baltimore was doing everything correctly.
Oh, no.
So it's going to be very interesting to see. And I hope we don't see it, because I hope that nobody else tests positive. And,
that it was one person and they ran around and gave a couple
an abundance of
caution.
So
it's so scary. And again, I hope everybody, whoever got it, gets through it. No ill will. Don't want anybody to get seriously ill.
Of course, yeah. So players who test positive and are asymptomatic are not allowed to return until 10 days have passed from their positive test. And then they have to have 2 negative tests 24 hours apart.
Yep.
Players who test positive and have symptoms cannot return until 10 days have passed from the start of their symptoms. And then I would assume the 2 negative tests as well.
Yeah, you have to have those 2 negatives. Even if you came in contact with somebody, you still have to have those 2 negatives.
And then players that are exposed, so this would be the contact tracing part, must be symptom-free and test negative for 5 days in a row before returning. So we likely will not see any of these guys back before Friday.
Nope.
For practice. And by the way, the Panthers have shut down the facility today and tomorrow. Today being Monday, tomorrow Tuesday. So they won't even. Nobody will be in there until Wednesday, at the earliest.
And they shouldn't be. They need to.
And this isn't the first time. Yeah, and this isn't the first time the Panthers have done this. No. We've had to shut down the facility at least one time before this season. So, but yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about offensively what would happen. Defensively, I mean, you're looking at Bravian Roy and F.A. Obata potentially playing defensive tackle
as starters. I mean,
yeah, and that hurts us because F.A. Obata is typically playing on the edge and has been playing well this year on the edge. So I guess for him, it just an opportunity maybe to show a different skill set of his. And Bravian Roy hasn't played much at all, so an opportunity for him. So you look at it one way or the other. For these guys, it could be opportunities to show their worth to the Panthers.
Oh man, I just thought of something. If Shaq Thompson can't go.
Oh yeah, I know. Tahir Whitehead. That was the first thing I thought about. I saw Shaq Thompson. I was like, Tahir!
Screaming.
Or do you have Jeremy Chin step into that role and play full time at that position?
Put Jermaine Carter.
Yeah, Jermaine Carter will be out there. That's what I would prefer to see, obviously.
Yeah, I think we all would.
Pro Football Focus has once again moved Jeremy Chin back to safety. So they have no idea what to do with him. They have no idea what to do with him. So yeah, I mean, this is a big loss, especially DJ Moore. I mean, he leads the Panthers in receiving yards, leads the Panthers in receiving touchdowns. And then Samuel is second in receptions at 54 and obviously is a massive target on third down. He's third in the league in third down receptions. So this could be a tough game to watch if some of these guys don't come back.
Absolutely. I mean, that's decimating. That's a quarter of your starters. 5-6 starters. I mean, yeah. Seriously,
there's only 22 of them, so that would be
quarter of your starters not being able to play. That's going to be
rough.
I know the Denver Broncos had dealt with, the quarterback situation, but man.
Well, we saw how that worked out for them.
Exactly.
That was terrible. So luckily, Teddy, none of the quarterbacks have tested positive yet or even contact tracing. So,
I mean, you got to also think though, I know we're going into game preview kind of a little bit because we have no clues what's going to go on. Sure. Christian McCaffrey can play a little receiver though.
Well, he usually does. So, but you're saying like line up straight as receiver, not in like gadget plays like Mike
Just
Davis
throw him
at
out
running
there
back
and put Mike Davis as the back.
Yeah, I could see that.
I mean, he
wouldn't
goes
be
out.
The worst thing in the world.
I mean, when he came out of college, everybody said he was the best route runner out of any of the players, including the wide receivers. And if he was a wide receiver, probably would go in the late first or early second.
He would have been one of the top receivers drafted. That's interesting. That's an interesting theory. Yeah, they could make it fun. They could have some fun with this. I mean, make lemonade out of lemons here.
I think you have to. I mean,
well, the Panthers are 4-8, and even though mathematically, like you said, they're not eliminated, it's going to be. They could win out and finish 8-8, and almost definitely still not make the playoffs.
Yeah, I know. I'm just.
So. Yeah. But as you said, we do have our preview show coming up, so we're not going to step too much on that, but just wanted to kind of get this out, let you guys know what was going on. Not the end of days exactly, but it could make for an interesting viewing experience. Maybe Sunday, maybe further in the week. I don't know. Panthers could have a little extra time on that bye. We'll see.
And we want to thank everyone for listening. If you like our show, please let your friends know. Please follow us on Twitter at MeowMix Podcast. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at mailbag@meowmixpodcast.com. And if you leave us a 5-star review with a comment on Apple Podcasts, we'll read it on our show.
We'll be back in a couple of days, back Thursday morning with our usual weekly preview. Panthers against the Denver Broncos. Until then, everybody stay safe, test negative, stay positive, and keep pounding.